Two arrogant cops thought they could insult a Latina woman on the street until she revealed who she really was. What happened next shocked everyone watching. It was late afternoon in downtown Los Angeles, the kind of sticky heat that made tempers short and patience thin. The sidewalks buzzed with commuters rushing home, street vendors hawking tacos and aguas frescas, and traffic honking as if that would somehow move the gridlock faster. Amid the crowd was Isabela Morales, a Latina woman in her early 30s, walking with calm confidence. She wore jeans, a fitted navy blazer, and carried a leather folder tucked under her arm. To anyone watching, she looked like an ordinary professional finishing her workday. But Isabela was far from ordinary. As she crossed a narrow street near Pershing Square, a black and white police cruiser pulled up and blocked her path. Inside were two uniformed officers, Officer Reynolds, mid-40s, burly with a shaved head, and Officer Carter, younger, cocky, with mirrored sunglasses that reflected the city back at itself. They rolled the window down slowly, smirks plastered on their faces. "Hey, sweetheart," Reynolds drawled, his voice dripping with arrogance. "Where you headed in such a hurry? Shouldn't you be at home cooking dinner or something?" Carter chuckled, leaning out his window. "Or maybe selling tacos on the corner like the rest of your people. What's in the folder, huh? Papers for your deportation?" The words hit Isabela like a slap. She stopped, turned her head, and locked eyes with them. For a split second, the officers seemed to expect her to laugh nervously or scurry away, but she didn't. She simply stood there, her calm gaze steady, her lips pressed into a thin line. "I don't think that's very professional," she said evenly. "Do your badges allow you to harass women on the street?" The officers exchanged a look. They weren't used to pushback, especially not from someone they assumed was beneath them. "Listen, lady," Carter sneered, opening the car door and stepping out. "Why don't you give us some ID? You're looking suspicious, walking around here with that folder like you're somebody important." Reynolds joined him, looming tall over Isabela. "Unless you got something to hide, this shouldn't be a problem. Or are you afraid what we'll find? Maybe you're one of those illegals we're supposed to keep off these streets." People walking by slowed down, sensing tension. A few pulled out their phones, discreetly recording. Isabela noticed but didn't flinch. She reached into her blazer pocket deliberately and pulled out her wallet. She opened it and held up her driver's license. "There's my ID," she said. "Born and raised in this city." "Anything else?" Reynolds snatched it rudely and squinted at it. "Morales, huh? Figures. Bet your daddy's out there cutting lawns somewhere." Carter laughed again, shaking his head. "Man, you're lucky we're even giving you a chance. Most people like you, we don't bother wasting time." Isabela's jaw tightened, but her voice stayed cool. "Are you done humiliating yourselves?" The word struck sharper than any insult. Carter stepped closer, his chest puffing up, his breath reeking of coffee and arrogance. "You think you're smart, huh? You think you can talk to cops like that? You don't know who you're dealing with." Isabela tilted her head slightly, her calm expression never breaking. "Funny, I was about to say the same thing." For a brief moment, the air seemed to crackle with invisible electricity. The officers didn't yet understand, but something in Isabela's tone should have warned them. They were playing a dangerous game with the wrong woman. The crowd thickened, curiosity pulling strangers closer. Phones were out in plain sight now, recording every word, every gesture. The two officers noticed but didn't seem to care. In fact, Carter seemed to thrive under the attention, his chest puffing out further as he raised his voice. "You hear that, Reynolds? She thinks she's a big shot," he said loudly, grinning at the bystanders. "Maybe she's one of those activist types always crying about police brutality. Let me tell you something, lady. Real life doesn't work the way it does in your little protests." Reynolds smirked and waved her ID in the air mockingly. "Isabela Morales. Got a nice ring to it. Too bad names don't mean anything when you're just another face in the system. People like you think they can talk back, but guess what? Out here we make the rules." The arrogance stung the air. Isabela took a slow breath, her calm demeanor almost unnerving to those watching. She wasn't flustered. She wasn't afraid. She simply studied the men, her dark eyes sharp and calculating as if memorizing every detail. "Are you finished?" she asked softly. That subtle confidence unsettled Reynolds. He jabbed a finger at her chest. "Watch your tone. You don't tell us when we're finished. We'll decide that." Carter reached for her folder, tugging it out of her arm before she could react. "Let's see what's in here. Probably fake papers or some scam work documents." He opened it, flipping through neatly organized files. What he found wasn't what he expected. Confidential documents stamped with government seals, briefing notes, and official reports. His brows furrowed, but he quickly masked his surprise with a mocking grin. Well, well, well. Look at this. Somebody playing dress-up with government papers. Did you steal these? Isabella crossed her arms. You should put those back now. Reynolds laughed. Or what? You gonna call your lawyer? Go ahead. We'll wait. At that moment, a voice rang out from the crowd. Yo, leave her alone. She didn't do nothing. Others murmured agreement, their unease turning into support for Isabella. The phones kept recording, some streaming live to social media. The situation was spiraling beyond the officers' control, but they were too arrogant to see it. Instead, Carter stepped closer, folder still in his hand. Lady, I don't know who you think you are, but around here we run the show. You're just another Latina trying to act important. And trust me, you're gonna regret mouthing off to us. Isabella looked at him steadily. Her voice dropped lower, carrying an edge that made even some of the bystanders lean in. You've already made a mistake you won't recover from, and the world is watching. The weight in her words was undeniable. Something was coming, something the officers were not prepared for, and they were about to learn the truth about the woman they thought was ordinary. The tension was razor sharp. Carter held Isabella's folder like it was some kind of trophy, while Reynolds grinned at the crowd as if this was all a show for his entertainment. But Isabella didn't move an inch. She stood tall, her composure unshaken, her eyes locked on them like she was simply waiting for them to dig their own graves. Finally, she spoke. Open page 3 of that folder, Isabella said, her voice steady. If you're so confident, go ahead. Read it out loud. Carter chuckled, flipping pages with exaggerated drama. Oh, this should be good. Let's see what little Isabella's hiding. But as his eyes landed on the page, his voice caught in his throat. He read the first few lines and his smug grin faltered. The paper wasn't some forgery. It was an official Department of Justice memorandum. At the top, in bold letters, it read, Federal Oversight Committee on Law Enforcement Conduct. Below, stamped with an embossed seal, was Isabella's name and title. Senior Federal Investigator, Department of Justice. Carter's jaw clenched. For the first time, his sunglasses didn't hide the panic in his eyes. Reynolds leaned over his shoulder, squinting at the page. His face drained of color. The crowd picked up on the shift immediately. Murmurs rippled through the onlookers. Wait, she's a federal agent? Someone whispered. Oh man, they're screwed. Isabella extended her hand calmly. My folder. Carter hesitated, then reluctantly returned it. She slid the papers back inside with precision, then tucked the folder beneath her arm again. She glanced between the two officers, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had been in charge of far bigger rooms than this street corner. You insulted me. You racially profiled me. You violated my Fourth Amendment rights in front of dozens of witnesses and cameras, and you did it with a level of arrogance that tells me this isn't the first time. Reynolds opened his mouth, but Isabella raised a hand. Don't. Every word you say now will make it worse. Trust me. The crowd erupted in cheers and claps, emboldened by her poise. Phones tilted higher, catching every second of the unfolding drama. Carter tried to recover, forcing a laugh. This is all a misunderstanding. We were just what? Isabella cut him off sharply. Just harassing another woman because of the color of her skin? Just assuming I was beneath you? Just abusing your badge in public where you think you're untouchable? The officer's silence confirmed everything. At that moment, Isabella reached into her pocket, not for her phone, but for a badge. She flipped it open, revealing her official DOJ credentials. The gold emblem gleamed in the fading sunlight, undeniable and absolute. My name is Isabella Morales. I work directly under the Federal Civil Rights Division. My current assignment? Investigating patterns of misconduct in the LAPD. The crowd gasped. Reynolds took a step back. Carter swallowed hard. And congratulations, Isabella added, her lips curving into the faintest smile. You've just volunteered yourselves as Exhibit A. The air went electric. Every bystander recording knew they were witnessing something monumental. The two officers, who minutes ago strutted with power, now looked cornered and small. Ma'am, Investigator Morales, Reynolds stammered, his voice dropping to a near whisper. We didn't know. That's exactly the problem, Isabella shot back. You thought I was nobody. That gave you permission in your mind to abuse your authority. And how many times have you done this to others who didn't have the credentials to fight back? Her words cut like a knife. Carter, usually full of bravado, tried to salvage the situation. Listen, we might have gone too far, but there's no need to blow this out of proportion. Isabella's laugh was cold and humorless. Blow this out of proportion? Officer, the proportion is already national news. Look around you. You're trending before this conversation even ends. She pointed to the phones, the live streams, the people shouting, "Justice!" From the sidewalk. Carter's face burned red. Reynolds muttered, "We were just doing our jobs." "No," Isabella snapped. "You were abusing them. There's a difference. And now you'll face consequences." With that, she pulled out her phone and dialed a number from memory. "This is Investigator Morales," she said crisply once the line connected. "I need internal affairs, 2 supervisors, and a civil rights attorney dispatched to my location immediately." "Yes, it's urgent." The color drained completely from Reynolds' face. He looked like he might collapse. Carter rubbed the back of his neck nervously, glancing at the still-growing crowd. "Ma'am, please, can't we talk about this privately?" Carter begged, his earlier arrogance evaporated. "Privately?" Isabella repeated, her tone icy. "You humiliated me publicly. You racially profiled me publicly. You'll be held accountable publicly." The crowd roared in approval. Within minutes, another police cruiser pulled up, this time carrying a sergeant who looked both confused and alarmed at the scene. Behind him trailed 2 men in suits, clearly lawyers, summoned by Isabella's authority. "Investigator Morales," the sergeant said, saluting slightly. "I apologize for whatever transpired here." "Save it," Isabella replied. "You'll have plenty of time to apologize in front of a review board." The sergeant turned toward Reynolds and Carter, his expression tightening. "You two, hand over your badges and weapons now." The crowd exploded in cheers and applause. The officers froze, horrified, but the sergeant barked again. "Do it! You've embarrassed this department enough already." With trembling hands, Reynolds and Carter unclipped their badges, placing them reluctantly into the sergeant's palm. Their guns followed, holstered and surrendered. Isabella turned to the crowd, raising her voice so everyone could hear. "This is why we hold law enforcement accountable. No one is above the law, not even the people sworn to enforce it. Remember this moment." The bystanders cheered louder, chants of "Justice! Justice!" filling the air. For the first time all day, Isabella allowed herself a small smile. Justice wasn't just a word, it was action, and she had just set it in motion. The scene made headlines within hours. Every major outlet ran footage of Isabella standing unflinching against the 2 disgraced officers. Hashtags trended across social media. Justice for all, Latina power, and accountability now. News anchors dissected the incident frame by frame. Civil rights activists praised Isabella's courage. Politicians weighed in, some condemning the officers, others scrambling to distance themselves from the scandal. But for Isabella, it wasn't about fame. It was about impact. The next morning, she sat at a long mahogany table inside the Department of Justice conference room. Across from her sat senior officials, notebooks open, eyes sharp. A giant screen behind them replayed the viral footage of the confrontation. "You handled yourself exceptionally," one official said. "Your composure under pressure was remarkable." Isabella nodded. "Thank you. But this isn't about me. It's about systemic behavior. Those officers didn't act that way because they had a bad day. They acted that way because they believed they could get away with it. And that belief doesn't come from nowhere, it comes from culture." Silence filled the room. Everyone knew she was right. Within weeks, Reynolds and Carter faced formal charges: misconduct, harassment, violation of civil rights. Their careers were over. More importantly, the incident triggered a federal review of LAPD practices, expanding Isabella's investigation into a full-scale probe. But the impact went beyond legal reform. For thousands of Latinas watching, Isabella's stand was a moment of representation and power. No longer just another anonymous face on the street, she became a symbol of resilience, dignity, and justice. Months later, Isabella walked through the same streets of Los Angeles. Vendors nodded respectfully. Strangers stopped her to say thank you. Even children recognized her from the viral video. She remained humble, always redirecting the praise. "I'm just doing my job," she would say. "The real heroes are the people who refuse to stay silent when they see injustice." One evening, as the sun set over the skyline, Isabella reflected quietly. She thought of the officers' arrogance, their cruel words, their certainty that they could belittle her without consequence. And she thought of the moment she revealed who she truly was and how everything shifted. She smiled faintly to herself. They had underestimated her, and in doing so, they'd exposed themselves to the world. The lesson was simple but unforgettable. Never judge a person by what you assume. Because the ordinary woman you insult on the street might just be the one holding your fate in her hands. And with that, Isabella Morales continued her work, one case at a time, one voice at a time, reminding everyone that justice, though often delayed, could never be silenced.